Have you ever felt like an outsider in your own community? Like you had to choose between fitting in and being true to yourself? Well, you're not alone. Believe it or not, Hollywood superstar Mila Kunis has been there too. And the story of how she navigated this is more inspiring than you might think. Mila's journey began far from the glamour of Hollywood in Chernovetsy, Ukraine, during the final years of the Soviet Union. When she was just 7 years old, her family made the life-changing decision to move to America, seeking a better future. They arrived in Los Angeles with only $250 in their pockets, a suitcase full of dreams, and not a word of English. Imagine being 7, plopped into a new school in a new country where you don't understand a single thing. Mila described it as being like a deaf and blind person. The culture shock was immense. She'd come from a place of close-knit community and suddenly found herself in the sprawling, fast-paced world of LA to cope. She did what many of us do. She tried to blend in. She buried her native tongue, focused on mastering English, and embraced American culture with everything she had. Her big break came when she was just 14, landing the role of Jackie Burkhart on that 70s show. Suddenly, she was a household name. But this fame came with a new kind of pressure. In Hollywood, image is everything. You're expected to look a certain way, act a certain way, and say the right things. Mila, still a teenager, was thrust into this world. And again, the instinct was to assimilate, to become the person everyone expected her to be. For years, she played the part perfectly. She was the cool, funny, beautiful actress. She rarely spoke about her heritage or her family's struggles. It wasn't that she was ashamed, but in an industry that often prizes a simple, marketable narrative, a complex immigrant story didn't always fit. It was easier to be just Mila Kunis, the actress, rather than Mila Kunis, the Ukrainian-American Jewish immigrant who escaped the Soviet Union. But as she grew older, got married to her former co-star Ashton Kutcher, and started a family of her own, something began to shift. Motherhood has a way of making you think about your roots, about the legacy you want to leave for your children. She started to realize that by hiding a part of herself, she was doing a disservice not only to her own story but to her kids, Wyatt and Dimitri. She wanted them to know where they came from. She and Ashton made a conscious decision to ensure their children understood their heritage. They started observing Shabbat traditions and celebrating their Jewish culture more openly. This wasn't just a personal choice. It was a quiet public statement. In a world where it's often easier to be secular, Mila was choosing to embrace and share her identity. This subtle shift was the beginning. She was no longer just assimilating. She was integrating, bringing her whole self to the table, both her American identity and her Ukrainian Jewish roots. She was finding a balance, and in doing so, she was finding her true voice. But the moment that truly defined her, the day she stood up for her original community in a way the whole world would see, was yet to come. In early 2022, the world watched in horror as conflict erupted in Ukraine, the country of her birth. For Mila, this wasn't just a news headline, it was personal. It was her homeland, the place where her story began. The images on the screen were of streets she might have walked, of people who looked like her family. Suddenly, the part of her identity she had kept relatively private was thrust onto the global stage. She could have stayed silent. Many celebrities do. It's safer. It avoids controversy. But Mila couldn't. This was a moment that called for more than just thoughts and prayers. This was a moment for action. This was the day Mila Kunis stood up. Not against her Hollywood community, but for her global one. Alongside her husband, Ashton Kutcher, she didn't just post a supportive message on social media. They launched the Stand with Ukraine GoFundMe campaign with a clear, ambitious goal: to raise $30 million for refugee and humanitarian aid. In a heartfelt video, the carefully constructed Hollywood persona fell away. We saw Mila, the person. Her voice was thick with emotion as she spoke. She said, "I have always considered myself an American, a proud American, but today I have never been more proud to be a Ukrainian." This was a profound declaration. For years, she had emphasized her American identity as a way to belong. Now, she was reclaiming her Ukrainian heritage with fierce pride. Not as a replacement for her American identity, but as an essential part of it. She showed the world that you can be both. You don't have to choose. Her community wasn't just Hollywood anymore. It was the world, and she was using her massive platform to speak for those whose voices were being silenced. She was standing up for the 7-year-old girl who arrived in a new country, scared and unable to speak the language. She was standing up for every refugee, every displaced person, every family torn apart. The response was overwhelming. Her Hollywood community, and indeed the global community, rallied behind her. Donations poured in, her colleagues, friends, and millions of strangers were inspired by her authenticity and her courage. They didn't just meet their $30 million goal. They surpassed it, raising over $37 million to provide immediate and critical support to those in need. What Mila did was more than just fundraising. She redefined what it means to be a celebrity with a platform. She showed that influence isn't just for promoting movies or selling products. It's a responsibility. It's a tool for creating real, tangible change in the world. She stood up to the unspoken rule that you should stay quiet about difficult topics to protect your career. She stood up to the idea that you have to be just one thing. In that moment, she was a daughter, a mother, an American, a Ukrainian, a Jew, and a leader. She was her whole authentic self, and it was more powerful than any role she had ever played. Mila's story is a powerful reminder for all of us. We all have complex identities, different parts of ourselves that make us who we are. And sometimes we might feel pressure to hide some of those parts to fit in. But her journey shows us the strength that comes from embracing our full story. It teaches us that our roots don't hold us back. They ground us. The day Mila Kunis stood up for Ukraine was the day she fully stood up for herself. She showed us that you don't have to give up one community to be accepted by another. Instead, you can build bridges between them, and in doing so, create a community that is bigger, stronger, and more compassionate than you ever imagined. Her story isn't just about a celebrity. It's about the power of identity, the courage of conviction, and the incredible impact one person can have when they dare to stand up for who they are and where they come from. Thank you so much for watching. What did you find most inspiring about Mila's story? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more content like this. We'll see you in the next one.